Right, we are recording.
Anything you do say may be taken in evidence.
For the tape, can you please state your name? No.
Evidence packet B.
Right. Let's stop treating this like some sort of police evidence
Interview, yeah, okay.
interview. Okay, right. Hi everyone, it's Emily and I'm back again with another episode of the 21 and Sensory podcast. And on this episode, I've got a very special guest. I have my very own sister.
Hi.
So, there she is. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to call her Ella, but it's not her real name. So just so you know, just to keep her and her identity safe. So Ella, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. I'm 23. I live in London and I'm a primary school teacher. And I'm also studying a master's this year in education.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit about me.
A little bit about you, little nutshell.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got my sister on the podcast, which feels very weird.
Weird to be talking to you in kind of such a formal manner.
I know. Usually it's via a FaceTime, not via like a specific audio recording link. But there you go.
Yeah.
Why not? So you are a primary school teacher.
Yes. I graduated a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I always wanted to be a teacher. I feel like I've gone into like a therapy session here.
You go for it. I'm not charging.
Yeah, I love my job. I love going in every day and working with children every day. I'm a primary school teacher, so they're kind of small kids that I work with.
How old are they? So what year?
I have 6 7-year-olds, so I'm in year 2. So it would have been Stats year, which is a bit of a stress, but they've cancelled those. So woohoo!
Woo! Okie dokie. So at the moment you're alternating between going in and like doing Google Classroom, aren't you?
Yeah, so 1 week I'm in with key worker and vulnerable children, and then the next week I'm at home doing Google Classroom for the rest of the children aren't in. So it's nice to be able to see all the kids, which I didn't really get to do last lockdown. It's just a really funny format, and January I haven't done before. So,
and you were particularly gutted about Christmas as well, weren't you? Because
Christmas, I do a whole year to get to Christmas. It's like the reason I became a teacher was Christmas. Nativity, tinsel, glitter all over the shop. Yeah, and I was only in there for a week before they kind of shut our school down to go online, and I was gutted. My Christmas tree was up for about 3 seconds, and on like the last day of school, all my kids did every single day of the advent calendar. Christmas had really come early for them.
It will be Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, bless them.
Yeah.
I think I should just quickly explain that my sister is not neurodivergent, so just to kind of nip that in the bud. But I thought we could maybe talk about a condition you do have, which is called POTS. So I think it might be quite interesting for listeners to know a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'll give you a bit of my X Factor sob story. That's what I call it. It basically came on overnight. I woke up one morning and I couldn't stand up. I felt really, really dizzy, which was an experience I hadn't really felt before. And that was when I was 15, just about to turn 16. And after kind of lots of trips to the doctors and A&E in the end, who told me it was stress. I was like, this isn't stress, like I can't stand up.
Because it was your exam year, wasn't it?
Yeah, they said, are you doing GCSEs? It was September and they said, are you doing GCSEs this year? I was like, yeah, in July. And he was like, yeah, it's stress. That's what it is. And I was like, mate, like I can't get to the top of the stairs without lying down at the top. My heart rate was just insane. And by insane, I mean, it was like kind of like 150 beats per minute just from walking upstairs. So I ended up going to like a cardiologist, and this is my favourite story. You know, it's my favourite story because I tell everyone.
I know it is.
And I had like an echocardiogram, and they saw that my heart was fine and healthy, and they sat down with my parents at the end of this appointment. They were like, everything's healthy, not sure what's going on. And I was doing, what's it called? Is it an ECG in the other room?
Yeah.
And they said at the end, they're like the very last comment, they were like, well, do you know what? Your heart rate's fine lying down. Why don't you just stand up? And I was like, yeah, this is what I've been telling you. When I stand up, that's why my heart rate's insane. So I stood up and my heart rate was like insane because I've been lying down for so long. And then the consultant and my parents came through the room because they could hear like the heart monitor machine, and my heart rate had got to 199 beats per minute. And when the consultant saw that, he was like, well, I know what it is. It's called postural tachycardia syndrome, or POTS for short. And it basically means that when I stand up, your muscles usually constrict to push the blood up through your legs all the way like to your brain, get the oxygen circulating. But mine actually expands, so the blood kind of sinks to my feet, which makes me feel quite dizzy, and it makes my heart kind of pump faster to get the blood moving. So I can't stand still for very long periods of time. I can't do long walks or lots of stairs because it makes my heart rate go a bit insane. I used to be on medication for it, but with kind of like a diet and clever exercise and very, very refined different sorts of medication, I kind of got back to a place where I could kind of stand on my own 2 feet again. But it was kind of a combination of a ton of things. And there were so many people out there being like, you just need to eat fish and you'll be fine. And that was kind of like the most annoying. But just a combination. And my consultant was amazing. She knew all the right kind of medicine, different types to try. And I kind of gave everything a go. And I was all right, managed to sit my GCSEs from my sofa at home and get into uni at the same time as the rest of my year group were going. And I used to have a walking stick that helped me a lot. She was called Eileen because I lean on her. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. But I feel like with POTS, it's one of those like invisible illnesses. You would never be able to tell it from the outside. And that was kind of a bit of a struggle was, oh, you look fine. Which, I don't know, I guess maybe, I don't know, do you get that sometimes? People don't really expect it because you can't see it?
Yeah, I think so. And also stuff that's kind of hidden like that. And like what you said, you can kind of you can hide it. You can kind of mask it.
And I feel like sometimes you want to, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. And you can look okay. But actually, to be fair, when you looked at you looked pretty like grey and not well.
Yeah.
To be fair. You looked a funny colour.
No, I kind of did the talking. Thanks.
Yeah. But you didn't look well. Yeah. But yeah, it's and also like tell everyone how many GCSEs you have and like to where you are now. Like,
so I think one of my friends who sat a GCSE a couple of years ago, she had to do something like 22 exams, and then she got into doing like her course. And I always wanted to do primary education course. I knew I didn't want to do anything else that was different. And I did 5 GCSEs, just 5. I did 2 Englishes, maths, and then I'd taken RE in citizenship the year before in year 10. I did 5 GCSEs and I got to everywhere I wanted to be. Like I got to the degree I needed to get to with those 5 GCSEs. So I think it's ridiculous that they make like children do like 13 GCSEs or something now when I got to where I wanted to be with 5. Don't cause stress.
I have 11 GCSEs for no reason.
What has that helped you with? Because I feel like once you've got your maths and your English, you're safe.
Exactly. That is madness.
Yeah, that's insane.
Honestly, I think there is nothing as stressful as your GCSEs and potentially A-levels, although I found those less stressful because they were subjects I kind of wanted to do. But honestly, that GCSEs were the most stressful time of my life. And I just think that's madness to say that at like age 16.
Exactly. And I feel like it doesn't get you too much further in life unless it's a subject you really want to do. But why am I doing compulsory RE just because I went to a Catholic school?
Yeah, we both went to Catholic primary and secondary schools. So we know all the fun.
We know all the hymns.
All the hymns, yeah. Which we still sing just to...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of have to find the banter in secondary school because I don't feel like it was a place either of us kind of loved.
No, not really. And not until like even A-levels, like, okay, it was a bit better, but...
Yeah, I feel like once I got to wear my own clothes and really picked the subjects I was there for, then that was all right. But, oh God, I really hated secondary school. And I feel like they just couldn't... I feel like especially then, I think they're more conscious to change now, but I just don't think they really cared about mental health. Like, no, they do now-ish.
And I think a lot of people were probably also hiding other issues that were going on, potentially.
Yeah.
That you don't know about, so...
Exactly. Quick one. Can I say about your dyslexia?
Go for it.
Do people know you have dyslexia?
I mean, I've said about it, and I think I've kind of blogged about it as well.
Oh, okay. Because that's what I was going to say. I was going to say about like Senko in secondary school, but also in primary school. I feel like it was quite a lot of kind of box ticking kind of job. And
do you want to explain what Senko is briefly?
So Senko is Special Educational Needs Coordinator. That's what Senko stands for. So SEN in schools stands for Special Educational Needs, which is kind of like the umbrella for every additional need in school that might affect your education. And you have them in primary schools and secondary schools. There's usually one person designated, and I'll kind of get onto this. I've been looking at like the route into becoming a Senko. And actually, you only need to do a short course to become one, which I think is quite shocking. I think it would be a lot more comforting to know someone had come from a qualification, whereas they just have to do a short course for a certificate. And that's kind of, so I'm not making much sense. They have a Senko in primary school, Senko in secondary school, and they're the person that kind of coordinates all special needs provisions. And I feel like both of ours, but also the schools I've been at placement on during my course, just don't seem that invested in the children themselves, and they don't really seem to put them at the heart of what they do. It's kind of a box ticking. We have to have a Senko. We'll appear to do everything we can, but are we actually thinking about the child? And I kind of saw that, especially with you in school, both primary and secondary, no one was really there to get to the bottom of anything. They're almost there to get you through, to push you on to secondary school, to get you through to push you on to university. And you found out you were dyslexic, how late, but that it was such an easy thing to have been able to pick up on, I think, especially with you. Whereas I guess if it's kind of more subtle dyslexia, then that's fine if you can't pick up on it. But I just think people weren't really there to put the time of day into it. And that's kind of why I think I went into teaching. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I think it dawned on me more that I wanted to work in special needs because of how poor your experience was with kind of special needs provision to help you. And then I've seen it a lot over different placements, other schools just kind of box ticking to get through. And I think children deserve more. So that's why I kind of want to become a Senko at some point. And that's why I'm doing a master's, because I don't really want to do I can't remember how long the course is, but it's a short course to get the certificate. And so my master's is in like bilingual learners, leadership and management, and special educational needs, because I think I want more of a like a grounded knowledge about it before I can say I know about it. Do you know what I mean?
And will a master's help you get to that position, or would you have to do something else before?
So I'd have to do that SEN, that special needs course that you have to do. You have to have this certificate, but you don't need to have a degree. And when I spoke to my program convener about it, she said she hopes that at some point Senkos will need like a qualification, proper qualification. So we'll have to do that course, but I think it could make me more desirable that I've got a master's in it. I think I'd rather employ someone that had a master's in special needs and the certificate as opposed to just the certificate. But I've heard of quite a few schools that will pay their Senko that's on the course. So maybe that's a way to go once I finish the master's, to go into a school that will pay for me to do the certificate. Nothing's free these days.
No, nothing's free. And do you think like you'd have to be a bit older to be a Senko, or because you're 23? I should know this. You're my sister.
I think that's a good point. It is a good point. And I get what you're saying, that the more time I go through, the more experience I'd have. And I completely agree with that. But I think there is kind of a struggle in schools at the moment between older teachers and younger ones, with older ones kind of being quite set in their way, and the younger ones coming through from just new learning about the education system and the current changes, which kind of make me more aware compared to others. Like I've seen some Senkos before who just seem so archaic in their thoughts and their suggestions, whereas the education I've just had on the education system is so up to date, and I've got more ideas, and I think I feel more enthused compared to some teachers who have been in it so long that they're not willing to change their ways. So I get what you're saying, and I think definitely with practice I'll get kind of more experience and more knowledge about it. But I don't think it's maybe necessarily a bad thing that I'm a younger one.
No.
But yeah, the masters is a couple more years, so at least I'll be.
Yeah. And you got to where you are now, like, you know, you've done your like NQT year. So,
yeah,
you know, and you're still quite young, but, you know, you got to where you are now, like not dependent on your age. So,
yeah, exactly. And when I started my job as an NQT, I was 21, which is a bit weird because I don't think I'd want a 21-year-old teaching my kids, but often don't suss it. A lot of the kids try and ask me my name, but ask me my age, but I just tell them I'm 15 and they all kind of seem to believe me.
Yeah, I'm just 15. I've just like pitched up.
Yeah.
And NQT stands for newly qualified teacher.
Yeah,
we're using lots of acronyms.
Yeah, there's so many acronyms in school.
Good times. So we've kind of gone through have we gone into what made you want to go into teaching? It was just something you always wanted to go into, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, and to be a Senko, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to me, because let's be honest, I am the main event here. It's my podcast. I'm joking. So what am I like? Am I amazing? We could talk about childhood. I'm trying to pick myself up here. I'm joking, everyone. So yeah, let's talk about me and how it was to grow up with me.
Yeah.
Start from when I was a baby. No, I'm joking.
We're not that different in age, are we? What are we? 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'd never really saw you as any different.
I think you saw me as special.
Yeah, and there were some bits where I kind of like, I don't really get why she does that. Like I remember like memories of maybe like us walking past something and you touching it, and then you were insistent on touching it with your other hand to kind of like level yourself out. And now I see that as being a sensory thing, but before I'd kind of be like, that was a bit weird.
That's a bit weird. That's such a kid thing to say.
And I don't know, and I feel like we're not kind of like your typical, you know how kind of sisters in the UK are kind of pitched as these like girls that like share clothes and they fight over stuff and they share makeup, and I don't feel like we're kind of typical like that, but I don't think I'd want it. Like I feel like I come and I sit in your room for ages and we talk about stuff and we listen to the same music in the car because we have like similar music tastes. And yeah, I do still try and borrow clothes from you, but
it's usually stuff I can't wear, isn't it?
Yeah, stuff you don't like, the labels or something like that.
Yeah, I'm like, have this, I can't deal with it.
I think something else that I found kind of hard was I'm quite like an affectionate person. Like I like hugs. Whenever I see someone, like I give them a hug, and you were never like that. And I think it took me a while to realise that it wasn't anything personal. And I know that there'd be like some days I'd wake up and I could kind of sense from you that it wasn't really a day where you wanted to hang out or something. And it took me a while to realise actually it's nothing personal. It's nothing that she's upset with me about. She's just having a day where she needs it for herself. But yeah, you do give me a hug every once in a blue moon, and that's a very special occasion when it happens. Treasure it.
It's not that I don't want to, it's just I don't. It's a sensory thing.
Yeah, I get that.
But it I don't know, it's just perceived like as like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Not like I don't want to, it's just that I can't really.
Yeah. And I get that. And I think, yeah, that's where it came from, where I'd kind of be like, oh my gosh, it's personal. But actually it isn't. It's just you, which is a phrase that's kind of said a lot. It's just you.
It's just Emily.
It's what you like.
Yeah. Just know that you're special, Emily.
Yeah, that was it. Special. But I don't know. I don't think I ever, don't know if you want to go into this, but I don't think I would have ever said you were autistic until you said you were going like to have the assessment. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, sure. That was when I was kind of like, oh yeah, do you know what? Whereas before it would just kind of been Emily has sensory processing disorder. That was it. You had SPD, and I think that's because it's the more prominent thing.
Yeah, I think that's all I had to go on really, was from kind of knowing that aged 8 or 9. I'm not really sure how old I was. knowing that was all I really had to go on. At least I had something, I guess. But that wasn't very easy to describe to people if I needed to.
Yeah, I get that.
But
yeah, but I feel like it kind of ties everything a bit together. That kind of word now kind of just ties everything together a bit for you. Kind of.
I mean, I would have liked to have known earlier.
Yeah, but maybe that's down to Senkos. I don't know.
I see. You're what you're going into is that you want to go into being a Senko, and you're the root of the problem. I'm joking. Maybe you'll improve it. So, for the second part of this podcast, we thought it'd be interesting to put out a little question box on my Instagram story just to see if anyone had any questions for my sister. And I have a load of questions for you. So I'm just going to reel them off and hopefully you'll be able to answer them. So first question is, how has the pandemic affected her masters and teaching? And this question is from Abby Lewis.
So I'll go for masters first. My masters, it's one lecture a week and they've all just moved to online. So everything is via Zoom. So it's not too much change there. When I first started the course in September, you could pick whether or not you wanted to Zoom into the session or attend in person. So they've just taken away the in-person bit and nothing too much has changed. It's a very small group, so it means we all kind of turn up every week. And it's not too bad being online. I don't mind that one. It's nice to have the option too. In terms of teaching, that all went online from January to about 2 weeks ago. And that's an interesting one. And I don't ever wish to go back to those days. We did it all on Google Classroom. So we had live sessions with the children every day to check in and make sure they were kind of turning up. And then we do one live lesson a day. And the rest would be kind of pre-recorded videos. But it just meant you could only move forward a day at a time. And you had to kind of plan one day at a time rather than a week in advance, which is what we used to. And it was just tricky. It was, some of the work you'd get in would be absolutely amazing. Mum had definitely done it, not the child.
Excellent.
And some children just didn't really turn up. And a lot of parents said it was a really long time to spend on devices, which I agree. I teach 5 and 6 year olds. So to get them sat in front of a screen for, I can't remember how many hours it was, but it was a long time. So I'm really glad for those days to be behind us. It was not a way that I prefer, or the children, and it was really hard to see them all on the screen kind of sat bouncing in their house knowing they hadn't got up to too much that day. But at least it's kind of in place if we were to have to do anything like that again. We now know how to do it kind of online, unlike the last big lockdown.
That's good. At least it's sort of set up. Any funny moments teaching during the pandemic, whether it's online or in person?
Online, there are a few children who fart and then you've lost the room. You've lost all your children there. They're all giggling. You can't get them on mute. That's a car crash. And it happens more often than you think it'd happen, Also trying to get children on mute. Oh my God, what a struggle. It's now something that I use in class when I'm trying to get the children to settle down and be quiet on the carpet. I'll say, can you put yourselves on mute? Because they all kind of get that kind of in joke as to what that means, putting yourself on mute. But oh my goodness, I feel like my time on online teaching was it was 50% recording constant lessons, 50% putting children back on mute. And then kicking them out of the room when they repeatedly took themselves off mute. Yeah.
Fun. So really just a lot of managing technology.
Yeah, and I think that was quite a big change for a lot of teachers who are so kind of set in their ways. Are usually the people that are like, oh, I don't really do computers. When you try and ask them to do something on the computer, oh, that's not really, I don't really do computers. It's like, well, now you do, Linda, don't you? Everybody has to do computers.
You have to. There is no choice. Oh, bless. Okay. Let me see who the next question is by. I should have written down. I've got screenshots of.
I feel like I'm answering the questions too quickly.
No, it's fine. Okay. So Liv Grace P said, any tips for people on the spectrum who want to teach kids?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I feel like coming from a person who has kind of a, what's it called, invisible illness kind of vibe going on. I'm not sure if anyone's ever described it that way, but, visible illness vibe. it's quite an adaptable workplace. It kind of, you do get the opportunity to make it work for you. And I think that's why it's been a good job for me. I think when I told my doctor that I was going into teaching, she was like, right, you find it difficult to stand up with your heart condition, so how are you going to do teaching? But in the classroom, it's my classroom. It's kind of whatever works for me. There's no one that says I have to be standing up the whole time. There's no one that says I need to be anywhere at a certain time. It's all kind of up to me. So I sit down for a lot of my teaching, especially because they're younger children. I also need to eat pretty regularly, and I can do that in my classroom. I'm not really set to any kind of rules, and my children are really good about me eating. They'll often ask me if they can have some of my biscuit, and I'm like, no, nice try. But I feel like it's a pretty adaptable workplace where, and it's nice. It's kind of, I don't know, it's up to you. My every classroom is different. I have quite like a dancey, play music all the time kind of classroom. But if you want a classroom that's quiet, you can choose the colours in your room. If you want it to be a more kind of toned down classroom, then it can be. If you want it to be a very visual classroom, then you can be. It's all kind of up to you, which I quite like. It's kind of in your own hands a little bit, unlike kind of a 9-to-5 office job where everything's kind of set out. You do as you're kind of told to.
So what you're saying is it is, to some degree, pretty adaptable in terms of visually. I guess discipline-wise, you might be able to control the noise potentially. I know like noise is a big thing, like sensory-wise, but I guess like I know you're quite, I don't know, like you have humour with your kids, but you have the right level of discipline with them, and
boundaries,
they don't get ridiculously rowdy.
Yeah, and I feel like we have a good relationship, and I think especially if you kind of develop a good relationship with your class, then it makes your job a lot easier. And my kids know what level of noise is acceptable. And I'm someone that I don't like too much noise. I'm happy for them to talk as much as they like, but I can't deal with too much noise. It's too much for my brain to compute with anything else. But we've kind of got that understanding of what's acceptable, what isn't. So yeah, it's kind of like making it work for you. And I guess there are some things which might be difficult if you're someone that doesn't like too much mess or. Yeah. But it is a very kind of routine job. Nothing tends to change too much because you don't want it to change too much for the children. So really in school, routine shouldn't change too much. It's really nice to have really set times in the day, knowing when you have a break time like the kids, knowing when you have a lunch time, knowing when you can go home at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And also I was going to say, like, I guess with the like messy play and stuff and having kind of, potentially touchy-feely kind of toddlers and stuff, or like, kids who are younger, I guess you could teach an older group if you kind of couldn't deal with small children potentially. I don't know, in terms of like, I know that they're quite sort of fascinated by the stuff you wear and like to like touch your jumpers and stuff when it's not like COVID. But like, I guess you could find a year group that suits you, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And that's totally up to you as well. If you don't want to work in a year group, then you can say it and they won't put you in a year group you don't want to be in. That's the same for every school. It is up to you where you want to teach. It's where you think you can kind of best teach. And yeah, my working with 5 and 6 year olds, I quite like being really involved and kind of getting quite messy, and they come up and stroke my fluffy jumpers all the time and things, and I'm okay with that. However, I know that further up the school, Key Stage 2, especially kind of years 4, 5 and 6, they're kind of always sat at the table as compared to always sat at the carpet. And you do get kind of more of a grown-up kind of conversation with them. So yeah, it's kind of, you've got like a spectrum to choose from. Yeah.
So just out of interest, do you know anyone, I don't think you know anyone who's like autistic who's teaching, but do you know anyone like any like TAs or anyone like training who is like, I don't know, neurodivergent or has like an invisible illness? Do you know anyone like that? I don't know if you've ever come into contact with anyone else. I know you're quite new, like you're only like NQT +1, aren't you? So you've only been teaching a year and a bit.
Yeah. I did the primary ed route, which was 3 years of the course. And there was a boy on my course who was autistic. There weren't very many boys on the course. It's a very kind of female heavy course. And I know that he decided halfway through that he'd rather take kind of just the degree route as opposed to the teaching. I think on placements he'd found that quite difficult. And I think if you're going to be a teacher, you're either going to do the degree or the PGCE. So you'll get a chance at placement and to kind of see how it works in a school and see how you can make it work for you before you're kind of chucked into the deep end of kind of, oh my gosh, is this for me or not? So it gives you a bit of a trial period. And I think for him, he found it quite overwhelming, but also I think he also found that it wasn't actually the route he wanted to go down. So it's not necessarily kind of needs based, but there's loads of different kind of areas in education you can get into. So even if teaching isn't for you, there's so many other ways you can work with children or work to help benefit children's lives. And that's kind of what he's gone into now. He's gone into more of a kind of official education role as opposed to a teacher role, which is good that he hasn't given it up. I do also know some teachers with invisible illnesses that I honestly wouldn't have known about unless we'd had kind of the pandemic and found out that people were shielding and things. And I think similar to me, they kind of just make it work in their classroom. My TA knows about kind of my condition. I know that another teacher in the school, her TA knows about her condition, and it just kind of works for you. And I know that sometimes she has times when she doesn't feel very well, and a TA will run off and get her a cup of tea and take over the class for a few minutes. So I think it's a nice workplace to be in for having people understand your needs. And
it sounds very accepting, and the fact that you can tell people and they can run and grab you something if you're
Yeah, and I think especially kind of working with children, you're going to get people who are friendly in the job and approachable. So it's not a scary workplace at all.
Good answer. Okay, so Katie1L63 said, thoughts on ABA or other teaching styles for autistic individuals. So maybe if you answer this from teaching experience kind of way.
So I've done 3 placements in different schools, and then I've worked in this school for the last 2 years. And I've had the pleasure of teaching quite a lot of children with autism. And in my current class, I have a couple of children with autism. And I think, as everybody everybody listening might know, that no kind of one way is going to work for every child, and every single child is just so different. And I guess it's been a lot of trial and error, kind of seeing what works for them, what doesn't, really listening to the parents because they have them at home all the time, but also kind of listening to a good Senko is handy on picking up so many different tips and tricks as you go through. Kind of having you in my life helped me, especially at this first kind of stages of placements. There were children who kind of couldn't concentrate on their work and would have different coloured sheets over their work, which is something that I know you had at school. And it was kind of, it made me a bit more familiar before kind of being plunged into the deep end with it all. And it gave me more tips for when I had a class of my own. I could offer children kind of wobble cushions, kind of weighted blankets to sit on their laps whilst they work. And it's all been quite trial and error, but I feel like I've got quite a lot of resources in my classroom now. And especially if I buy them myself, it means that I can take them with me wherever I go. Whereas if the Senko in the school buys them, it kind of has to be returned. But if something's working for a child, then I'm kind of happy to buy them something to help them keep going. And
I'm kind of aware that the whole ABA thing is, I don't know, more of a thing in the US. And I know that you have a child who did potentially come in who had ABA, but really you don't have that sort of experience, do you, apart from knowing one child who
and he got diagnosed really young in the US too, so I think it is quite tricky sometimes kind of coming into experience with different I don't know what's it called, kind of different beliefs of autism and listening to how parents view. So it's kind of being understanding, but also really trying to figure out, actually, I know you're telling me this, but what I can see is working well for the child is this. So we're going to keep going with this. And it's kind of trying to keep the parents on board with whatever's working in school at the time. And I'll always be happy to kind of change my viewpoint should it show such amazing things for that child. But I think at the moment I'm just kind of keep doing what I'm doing as long as the child's happy,
Yeah, and it's not I've never heard you say it came up on your degree or your master's at all. It's not really a taught
thing,
is it?
No, I think I've only ever found out about it from Googling quite a lot. So I wouldn't really want to put an opinion down.
Yeah, at least it's on your. I'm glad it's on your radar as a.
Yeah.
This might be something I come into contact with a child, potentially, but
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
it doesn't.
And I think for the child in my class that it came up for, I was glad that I knew what it was when it came up, rather than being like kind of go along with something, or it was kind of like oh yeah, I know about that.
Like at least you had that background to make your own sort of decision, which is, I guess, good. That's a good question. It's difficult though. Like,
yeah, it is.
We don't know much about it, and it is more an American thing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question from Olive X Tree is: how would you describe your relationship with Emily?
Who's Emily?
Who's she?
How do I describe my relationship? I feel like, in a word, it's a simple relationship. You know, there's no drama. There's no beef here. Don't try and start beef between me and her. No, like, I feel like we are pretty simple.
It's straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like I can trust you with anything, mostly. I
think that age gap is also like quite nice as well. Like the 3 years, kind of.
It works, and it always meant that you could kind of like support me and being like you were always just like a couple of steps ahead from me. So I could ask you what like sixth form was going to be like. I could ask you what university was going to be like. You could give me like your school jumpers when you'd finish with them.
PE kits, school blazers, all that.
Yeah, hand-me-downs. I feel like people say that we look very similar, but I'm like, I don't think we do. I don't think we do. And I think we're quite opposite, but I think that works really well. I think I might have said that before. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I think that, it works quite well. We're not kind of into exactly the same things, but the things we are into, like we're into similar music. We like doing things like skateboarding. We like art and things. And then there's like elements of us that are kind of polar opposite.
Yeah, I feel like we have enough like shared interests that we can talk about like whatever. But even if we don't, like, it's really interesting, like for me to like quiz you on makeup and stuff, because I'm not into it at all. I don't particularly understand it. But if I want to like not achieve a look, but like I remember being like, so how does mascara work?
Yeah.
And just like stuff like that where I'm like, I have no idea, and I know you do because you have an interest in like, you know, makeup and like beauty stuff, and just like being able to go to you for like that sort of random stuff, or like, you know, she'll know. So yeah,
and I feel like in that respect it's also quite nice for me to kind of like feel like I can maybe help you out sometimes, not just kind of the reverse of always coming to you for advice and things. But I feel like even if I know you don't know the answer, I'll usually come to you for advice, just to be like, oh my god, what would you do? I'll often just come and sit in your room and play with your lights, you know.
I see. You just take advantage of my sensory toys, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like we always have a bit of banter.
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like we've got a good relationship going. Ain't no beef. Always there for the car journeys.
Yeah, and I think we've already explained that I'm the taxi driver.
You are not the taxi driver. Where is the last place you dropped me off?
I'm the driver.
I'm the DJ.
I dropped you back. Okay, you're the DJ. I dropped you back in London.
DJ.
That button in the music lessons. DJ.
DJ.
I've seen so many TikToks about that. Okay, next one is Ted Ayer. I might not be saying that right. Ted Ayer. He said family holiday memories. He said lockdown is getting him nostalgic. So,
yeah, we were meant to be going on holiday. We were meant to be going on holiday last year, and then it got cancelled. However, that holiday didn't actually have you booked onto it, but that's okay.
Okay, so explain that.
Well, let's start from the beginning. So we went on like family holidays like abroad, kind of when I was like just like midway through secondary school. We didn't go on any holidays abroad really before then. We'd only been to like Ireland. And we went on a couple of holidays, and then the last holiday I remember you being on, the last family holiday, was when we went to Turkey, and Emily spent the whole time inside or outside, but completely underneath the towel. I think we were there for 10 days. I'm not joking, guys. I had a banging time. I was in and out the pool getting ice cream, sipping on pina coladas. Emily
Not
was
that age.
just they were like the kid, the crappy kids versions of pina coladas.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Like several straws. And Emily was just under a towel, and I remember being like, "Eh?" I mean, we had a great time at dinner, but the rest of the time she was just kind of inside. But I don't know. I know you weren't kind of happy. I don't know. I feel like you were happier doing that. So it's kind of like do you know what? We'll leave her to it because that's going to keep her vaguely happy.
Yeah. To explain, I think I just struggle, like not holidaying in the UK. I struggle with the change in routine. I struggle with the heat. I'm not good in the heat. And this was like, I think we went to Greece and also to Turkey. And those were the only 2 family holidays abroad that I've ever been on, because I don't know, I just really didn't enjoy my time, and it was really difficult to see the rest of my family enjoying it, and I just didn't enjoy it. So from then on, I kind of opted out.
And I don't know, like the things I love about family holidays are kind of like the heat, being somewhere different, being so far away from stress and home. I like the drinking. I like the dancing and staying up late in the evening. And when I think about those things, it's kind of everything you hate. So
that is that whole list. I was like, no.
Yeah. So instead, I just imagine you at home secretly having a house party after your plan had worked well.
The thing is, you'd come into me just watching a repeat of like Top Gear on Dave. That would literally just be all I'd have done.
Yeah. So I don't know. We had good kind of staycation holidays, and we went to Butlins for quite a few years, and that was so good. That was really good. And I guess because we did it a few years, we did actually kind of get a routine with what we did going. We had the same kind of routine every year. And I think similar to Cornwall, we go to Cornwall every year, and there's a routine there. The same thing happens every year.
I'm better with
Whereas different countries, you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Good question, though.
Agreed. Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, maybe let's ask a different one. Right, I don't know how to say this username, but it's like 3I1DH and then like _the_dreamer. And they asked, did you ever think that Emily was autistic before she was diagnosed? Ooh. I didn't.
I didn't until I heard you were going for the assessment, and I was like, wait, am I allowed to swear? Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
I was like, oh shit. Like I don't know, like yeah. When I heard you going for the assessment, I was like, oh my god, that's it. I was literally like, that just makes so much sense. But it wasn't until you said that, I was literally like, when you said it, I was like, oh my god, how have I... It's like a really good whodunit in a TV show. I was like, oh, how did I not get that? Oh, I knew that.
And if you felt like that, I felt like that times 10.
Yeah, I feel like it made so much sense,
be.
but I would never have, had you not said you were going through assessment, I would never have been like, do you know what? Yeah, no.
Mm. Okay, fair,
I didn't see it coming, but now it makes so much sense.
It does, I think so. Okay, next question is by Sammy Joe Baby Forever 22. Best advice for a spouse/friend/family member of what to do when witnessing sensory overload or autistic like meltdown or shutdown.
I feel like your best port of call, is that a phrase? I think it is to listen to what they need, because I think you don't want to overwhelm them too much by panicking or kind of stressing yourself out. It's not going to help them. It's also not going to help you. So I think you just need to be there, be present if they want you there. If they don't say anything, just stay there. It's nice to have the support, I imagine. I'm trying to think about like what I'd have when I feel really unwell. I'd hate having people panic, and I just need them to kind of be there until it kind of rides over a little bit, which is what I'm imagining it might be for ASD meltdown.
Yeah, and even like, I don't want someone to say like, "Are you okay?" I almost want someone to be like, "Do you want to step outside for 5 minutes?" Like that's a more useful question to ask me, I think.
Yeah, because I think you also kind of have quite a default with "Are you okay?" It's kind of like
I'm fine.
I'm fine. So yeah, I think your best option is to kind of listen to what they need, or just if they're not saying much, like kind of just have a watch. Are they in a busy place, like you say? Is there somewhere quieter you can go? It's not like the obvious help, I imagine. Like, you don't want people to be like, "Are you okay?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go and get you water? Shall I call? Do you want me to call someone?" Like, no, that's going to panic them more.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
be chill about it, because it's easier afterwards as well to kind of get through it once you know someone's been chill, rather than be like, "Oh my god, that was too much."
Mm-hmm.
So it might make another
Good
meltdown
answer.
scarier.
Exactly. Okay, and then last question is from Abby again. She said, "What is your sister's favourite fidget toy that I own?"
What is your favourite fidget toy?
No,
or my
what's
favourite
yours?
of yours?
Of mine, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, everybody loves a bit of the bubble popper, but you don't let me touch yours, so I wouldn't know if that was fun or not.
Harsh, but I love it so much.
I know.
Get really funny about people.
I think my absolute favourite one is, I saw it for the first time ever in my life on a placement, and then I bought you one for Christmas, and then I bought one for a child in my class, and it's the liquid timers. Oh my god, I could just watch that all day. No, like the like kind of oil drips down. Oh my god, I love those.
Yes.
I wouldn't recommend taking those into school, because the children shake them viciously and they get lots of bubbles. So I'm going to buy one for myself instead.
Oh, that pains me to think that they're just like shaking them up.
If I just notice it's gone missing, I'm like, oh my god, where's it gone? Because it's been taken to like a hidden corner and it's been shaken. Yeah, I feel like that one's my favourite. I don't really like any like the like squishy ones. I don't want anything that's going to be sticky in the hand. But yeah, liquid timer is just, it's calming to me, a bit like a sand timer is. Something good to watch. Zen vibes, you know? Yeah, that's my favourite fidget toy.
Nice. I think those are all the questions. Great work. Do you have like a SoundCloud to like promo, or
all my solo music that's coming out, and my mixtape?
I always feel like when people's like tweets go viral, they're like, "Here's my SoundCloud." It's like, okay, thanks. Anything else you want to share? Share with the team? The listeners? I don't
think so. Just, live, laugh, love. Dreams don't work unless you do.
That's a good
I get
one.
knocked down, but I get up again.
Pretty sure that's a song.
Yeah.
I did put you on the spot. I didn't actually say. I was going to ask you. What about like anyone who wants to get into like teaching? Would you say like degree? Like, there's lots of ways to get into it, isn't there?
There's so many different routes. Even there's routes in where you get paid to kind of placement teach throughout a year. I think that's called Teach First in the UK, where you can like earn money and have like a day in uni each week. You did a full-time degree, that was 3 years. We could do PGC, which is 1 year. It's a little bit tough, but it's very rewarding. What I can say from my kind of perspective, obviously, is it's literally their best job in the world. To go into such a colourful, bubbly workplace every day and have children tell you the most awful jokes, and just to know, like, on a Sunday night when you're like, oh, I really don't want to go to school, that you've got like 27 children that cannot wait to see you the next day, is a really good feeling. So if you want to get into teaching, I'd say absolutely do it. And there's so many kind of opportunities. Get as much experience as you want beforehand, because it gives you just a little kind of taster, like, do I want to do this, before it gets kind of too big and scary. So yeah, It's a great job.
Nice. Oh, well, I'm glad you're happy in your job, and I can definitely like tell, like, when you come home from school and you like FaceTime us to be like, this happened and this kid did this, and they did this well in their tests and stuff like that. Like, you can really tell like you're passionate about it and like you genuinely enjoy turning up every day. So I think it's important to find that in a job if you can.
Yeah, I feel very lucky to feel that with my job, to feel excited to go in every day.
Indeed. Well, I think here's a good point to like wrap up with. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I wonder if people will want you back again. You might have to come back for like a second episode.
Maybe. I hope they like me. I hope they're not like, who the heck is this?
I think we're going to get comments of people being like, you sound exactly the same. It sounds like you're having a conversation with yourself.
I don't think I'm as very, it's not photogenic, obviously, but like photogenic voice. And like, I feel like you've got a very good podcasty voice.
Oh, girl. Okay. Love you, bee.
Love you, bee. Thanks for having me on.
So after we finished recording, I realised that actually I could make a blooper section at the end of this podcast because there was random hilarious things that I didn't include. So enjoy this little blooper section. I think they're probably going to ask, like, what age is she? And we'll have covered that.
23. Also, that was so into you. I was like, I'm 23. No, it's like I'm on a dating like TV show. I'm 23. I'm from London. I'm a primary school teacher. Yeah. Oh.
It was a bit. It's okay. I feel like we should have done like a 20 questions. Like, what's your favourite colour?
Well, we could do that.
What's your favourite? 20. Google 20 questions.
And we could be one of those, you know, those Mr. and Mrs. ones where it's like, what is she most scared of?
Oh.
And that could be like labels and clothes. It could be like spiders.
Oh.
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 Actually, Oblivion. I'm most scared about dying. Cool. Sorry, I got a bit deep. Me.
B.
I just went to hang up the call on my phone and it's not there.